Welcome friends, I'm going to talk to you today about the eyes and in particular a very powerful mudra in the Hatha Yoga system known as Shambhavi Mudra. This is also a mudra used in the Kriya Yoga systems and the lineage of Yogananda Paramahansa. Many of you know. Let's get started. Yoga practice is much more than most people realize. It's about unlocking our full potential. So, where our eyes go, our attention follows. And there's a saying that if you can control where your attention goes, you can control your destiny. And the reason for that is actually pretty simple if we think about it. Most people aren't really aware of how much energy it takes to look, because it requires energy to look and to perceive things. And so in yoga, in the classical yoga system of Patanjali, the Raja Yoga as we know it, Pratyahara, the fifth limb of the eight-limbed system, is sense withdrawal. So the withdrawal of one's senses inward, because when the senses are no longer losing their energy out in the external world, what happens to that energy? So if you just think about that for a moment, how much energy it takes to smell things, to see things, to feel things. And if all of that energy is no longer like a turtle withdrawing its limbs into its shell, and all the energy is now within one's being, you could say, what is the effect? And then so in the yoga system, there's a lot of practices that are designed to bring one's awareness inward, internalizing awareness, so that the world no longer is as relevant, because this world is a world of relativism. It is the world of duality. It is the world of me and you, subject, object. This is known as Shiva and Shakti. Right, the seer, the one who sees, and the object that is seen. So when we become aware of this process and we start to withdraw our attention from the objects that our focus is on, what happens to that energy? I know I'm repeating myself because I want you to think about this. What happens to the energy when it no longer... Think about this. Like the famous saying, does a tree make a sound if it falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it? And this is like a kind of a quantum conundrum. There's also if you may have heard of Schrodinger's cat, the Schrodinger's cat experiment. I won't share more into that, but it's like, is the cat in the box when you're not opening the box to look at the cat? And Schrodinger, who's the famous quantum physicist who coined this term, proposes the idea that the cat exists in 2 dimensions. It exists and it doesn't exist. And it is flipping between existence and non-existence. And that is sort of in quantum physics, this is the commonly accepted understanding about particles, that they're disappearing and reappearing in like super rapid speed constantly. And this is sort of what I'm getting at, is this is the scientific explanation for how things appear in manifest form and disappear back into the unmanifest matrix of the universe, of the energy that is sustaining all of creation. And to take that even a step further, in Eastern thought, time is not linear. So follow me for a moment. Time is not Big Bang happened back then, and 15 billion years later we're here. In Eastern thought and the yogic metaphysics, time is a circle, it's cyclical. And that within that there's this idea that the Big Bang, because it didn't happen back then, well, when did it happen? It's happening right now. In fact, every moment that there is a perception, an active consciousness, the universe springs into form. And then as soon as that active consciousness is withdrawn, that universe collapses back into its original condition, which is the unmanifest, the absolute. It's like they say Shiva sleeps. Yeah, or Brahman sleeps, goes back to rest. So, what does that have to do with the eyes? Think about this. If my attention is on a thing that I'm looking at, I am giving that thing my energy, my prana, and that thing now has more life because I, as the conscious observer, is creating it in the very act of perceiving it. Are you following me? This is very important because if we can start to control where our eyes go, this means what we read, what we look for as evidence in the world. Think about it. If you get up first thing in the morning and you start researching negative news or what's going on over, in that disaster, I need updates. I need more information. I want to be informed. I, as the consciousness, am giving energy to the thing that I am looking at. So the act of perception happens if we back up one step, we start looking for the thing that we then find with our gaze. We start looking for the thing that we then find with our gaze. So why would we start looking for anything in particular? Because something within us feels unfulfilled. This is the beginning of creation, that there is in yogic cosmology, there is it's called Icha Shakti. Icha Shakti. It's one of the three primordial forms of energy, of Shakti, that work together to create everything that we know. Icha Shakti is the energy of desire. And they say that the creator, the reason that the universe exists is because the creator had a desire that was unfulfilled. The desire to know itself. And so the one, the infinite absolute one, split itself into a multitude so that it could then perceive itself. It created duality. It created the object that it could see and it could mirror itself through. Why is this important? If we become aware of that which we are looking for, we become aware of what is within us that is propelling that search. If we're looking for things that don't feel good, what is within us that is inspiring our energy to search for that information, to then validate a belief that is happening within us? This is very, very important. We look for things to prove to us what is already within us. The one that we are, the consciousness that we are, that is not good or bad, is going to create the universe to mirror to itself what its state is. What this has to do with the eyes is if we can control what we're looking at. Are you guys following me on this? If we can control what we're looking at, or at least start to notice what we're looking at, and start to change what's happening inside of us, then we can start to look for other things. We can start to create the feeling in us that we want first, and then look for evidence to support that feeling. So they say that in order to change anything, we have to change consciousness. What does that mean? We start to change what's happening inside of this being, this vessel. And then I start looking and finding all of the evidence to support that creation. That Big Bang is starting to happen. This is really cool stuff. And so in the Hatha Yoga system, the tools and the techniques, the breathing practices, the pranayamas, the kriyas, the mudras, the asanas, these are all helpful to help organize our prana so our prana goes where we want it to go. If our prana is not developed or trained, right? We have to train our consciousness. We train our mind so that our mind isn't constantly looking for things that we don't want to see. We train our mind to look for things that we do want to see. And this is developing the prana in such a way that the prana starts to look for beautiful things, creative things, inspiring things. It starts to look into nature for love, for truths. It starts to look into nature for clues about what the heck is happening in life and what do we need to learn. All of this can be right in front of us if we have the eyes to see it. I think was it Jesus that said something like, those who have the eyes to see, let them see, something like that. Mudra, Shambhavi Mudra. The eyes, so the way that I teach this, you guys follow that all on vision, right? And the importance of controlling where we're looking. It's directing our attention. Directing our attention. So Shambhavi Mudra and controlling the eyes, developing a practice that allows us to control the eyes, allows us to develop control over the prana. This is the whole idea of Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga deals with body, breath, and mind in such a way that allows us to control where prana goes. Without this system, without becoming aware of how the body works, the body's just going to act out the script that it was given. That means acting out the karmas that were given from our parents, from our grandparents, from our ancestors, and continuing to reenact the past. But consciousness wants to evolve. So luckily we have these tools. One of them is Shambhavi Mudra. So if you take your finger and you follow it all the way to the bridge of your nose while looking at it with your eyes, you'll cross your eyes. And then if you take that same finger and you press it up and then you look upward into your brain, right, that's what it looks like with my eyes open and my eyes are closed. You get kind of this, the eyebrows will lift a little bit. This might fatigue your eyes. It might be challenging for you, and that's okay. Over time, it gets better. But what's happening when you're doing that is you're literally stretching your optic nerve and you're stretching the fascia of the, like there's fascia that wraps around all of the nerve bundles, all of the muscle tissue, the connective tissue. That fascia goes into the brain. You'll feel this all the way into your brain stem. And eventually, with sensitivity, like these practices start to develop sensitivity in the body, that connection of the eyes will travel all the way down, and this is crazy, you'll feel it in your root. You'll feel it in your pelvic floor. And so for me, after years of doing this and cultivating this, when I look up, there's a gentle tug at the base of my spine because your entire body is connected through this fascial network. So when I look up and there's a tug at the base of my spine, and then I can employ Mula Bandha, we'll talk about that in another video. Uddiyana Bandha, the stomach, right? The chin starts to drop, the tongue will press up to the roof of the mouth, but we're just talking about the eyes today. Shambhavi Mudra, I want you to get this. Control the eyes. When you're meditating, focus upward in the brain, don't let the eyes fall, and you will start to direct and control prana in your system, moving it upward to a higher vibration or frequency, you could say, which just means, what that means is instead of that energy falling down and spilling out and following its predetermined path, you are the one in control. You're bringing it in, you're bringing it up, back to your creator, and then it cycles over and over and over again. It's the cycle of creation. And then your big bangs, the universe that you're creating, starts to become more conscious. Thanks for joining me today, guys. It was a pleasure talking about Shambhavi, Mudra, and the eyes. Namaste.